In my meetings with Governor Walz, A.G. Ellison, and Mayor Fry, as well as state and local law enforcement, again, I appreciate they all acknowledge that we do have federal immigration laws in this country that have been passed by Congress, and that ICE is in fact a legitimate law enforcement agency charged with enforcing those laws. I'm not here because the federal government has carried this mission out perfectly. First thing I said to senior staff when I walked in here is what I told you earlier. I didn't come here looking for photo ops or headlines. I come here looking for solutions.
Trump's border czar Tom Homan struck a bit of a different tone from Border Patrol head Greg Bovino, whose leadership on immigration enforcement in Minnesota contributed to a chaotic environment and also contributed to 2 American citizens getting shot and killed by ICE and Border Patrol. Now, here's what Bovino's orders look like, just to kind of give you a sense of the change in tone, if you will.
Arrest as many people that touch you as you want to. Those are the general orders. All the way to the top, everybody if they touch you. You hear what I'm saying? Less legals. We're gonna look at shipping tractor trailer loads of that. So you catch what it's all about us now, it ain't about them. Professional, legal, ethical, moral, you know what we're talking about. Legal, ethical, moral, you're on camera. But other than that, it's what we do. The city is a city.
It's gonna hurt, interesting. Cenk, your 2 cents.
Yeah, so look, I'm glad they're retreating. I don't know if they had to give Tom Homan another bag of money to get him to do this job. But I mean, and it's a hell of a retreat to Tom Homan, right? Yeah. It's not like he's a buttercup.
No, he's not. Actually, if anything, Tom Homan is very serious about immigration enforcement. And I think he understands the importance of optics and professionalism in order to be able to carry out the job effectively. So for those who are worried about more people getting deported, I actually think under Tom Homan's leadership, there will be more deportations.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out, and we'll see what. But most importantly is what are the rules of engagement going forward? Because you saw that video there, and the rules of engagement were, you're on tape, so keep that in mind. You saw him say moral, ethical, legal. But outside of that, this city is ours, and if anybody touches you, you take them down, et cetera, et cetera.
I think the thing about the tractor trailers of less lethal weapons coming in, like how giddy he was about that. I mean, there's just a noticeable difference in the way Tom Homan was speaking at this press conference today versus how we've seen Bovino carry himself, period, at all times.
One more quick thing about that. So guys, a lot of times, whether it's military or a situation like this, the tone of the commanding officer is enormously important. So if they're strict about following the rules, then that'll flow down in the organization and people will be strict. If they say, hey, follow the bare minimum of the rules and then have at it Hoss otherwise, that gives permission, and then people take further license with that because they think, no, he means loosen it all the way up. And so you see that not just in America, but in countries all across the world. So that's why the tone at the top is so important.
100%. Now, back to Tom Homan, because his press conference is worth getting into. Now, after Alex Preddy was fatally shot, Trump decided to demote Bovino. He is no longer in Minnesota, and he is soon expected to retire soon. And Tom Homan was brought in. He's gonna report to Donald Trump, at least that's what Trump said. Trump tasked Border Patrol or Border Czar Homan to take over those operations in Minnesota. And Homan discussed the extremely important agreements, and I do agree they're extremely important agreements that he received from state and local leaders in Minnesota. I personally think this is a good sign, and this is what I've been asking for. So let's take a look.
I will highlight that the Minnesota State Prison System under the Department of Corrections have been honoring ICE detainers. And we appreciate that important collaboration, and we're going to expand upon that. I'm also pleased to announce I had a very good meeting with Attorney General Ellison, and he has clarified for me that county jails may notify ICE of the release dates of criminal public safety risks so ICE can take custody of them upon the release from the jail. Give us access to the illegal alien public safety threat and the safety and security of a jail. It's common sense. It's safer for the community, it's safer for the agent, and they're safer for the alien. This is common sense cooperation that allows us to draw down on the number of people we have here. Yes, I said it, draw down the number of people here. Because we have the efficiency and safety of the jails and the prison.
For me personally, you might disagree, but for me personally, that part of his press conference was the thing that made me most optimistic because it shows some sort of collaboration and negotiation between federal and state and local leadership. And it's all in this pursuit of bringing the temperature down and ending the chaos that we're seeing on the streets. Now, whether or not it actually happens, we're gonna have to wait and see. I've learned to not be too optimistic, and I don't wanna say that things are gonna be way better moving forward. We're gonna have to see if these things develop in a way that's better for the local communities in Minnesota, while also allowing immigration enforcement to do their jobs and get the actual criminals out of the country. And by the way, I should note that a Trump administration official spoke to Reuters and told them that there would be a shift to a more targeted approach to immigration enforcement as opposed to what we've been seeing on the streets.
So now let me make a point that that is more nuanced about sanctuary cities, okay? And so sanctuary cities do two different things. One is protect the victims of crime. So if they're undocumented, I'm reporting a mugging, or my kid was killed, or I've been raped. Those type of things. We do not want to say, okay, now we're turning you over to ICE or Border Patrol after you do that, because then nobody will report crimes and it'll be terrible for everyone involved. So that part of sanctuary cities I agree with. There are other parts that I agree with. But there was also the part where if you have an undocumented immigrant who committed a crime, they served their sentence, that city would not then turn them over to ICE. And I think that part makes no sense.
I agree.
So, and by the way, if you say, oh, no way, that we can't have that, the real left-wing position is that, okay, do you know that sanctuary cities didn't exist during Obama? And that the reason Obama was able to deport so many people is one, he's mainly stopped them at the border. That's another long story, but also because they didn't have this provision. So DHS, et cetera, could go in to those cities and say, just give me the criminals that are about to be released from prison who are undocumented, and those cities would, right? I think that is a very fair ask. So if you're on the left and you say, no way, we have to protect even the people who are undocumented criminals. And by the way, to be fair, that served their time, right?
I don't care.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
We have our own homegrown criminals to deal with, okay? Like we don't need to import them from all over the world.
I get it. I'm just saying there's a range of opinions on it, and I get it. Everybody feels a little differently, but I think that the majority of the country, and I happen to agree, would say no, that part of the sanctuary cities is not a good idea. And it looks like here in Minnesota, we're getting to kind of a default compromise. And a compromise that I think a lot of people, even if you don't particularly like it, wherever you are on the political spectrum, that the great majority of the country would like, which is get the ICE off the streets, stop the mass deportations with a warrantless,
entry into
the homes, and the mass and no badges. Get rid of all that unconstitutional stuff. But yes, when an undocumented criminal has been detained, we hand them over to ICE. I think the country would actually love that compromise, if you ask me.
So this press conference was also the second example of Homan kind of differentiating himself from other Trump administration officials following a fatal shooting. So let's take a look at that.
The new video of Alex Preddy is now circulating. Your reaction to that, and do you think law enforcement could have played a role if, like, let's say Minneapolis police were able to respond to that? Have those top law enforcement officials said they'll help or do anything to help these agents who are out here?
I'm not going to comment on any of these shootings. I said from day one, I said on any of these shootings, as a career law enforcement officer, we'll let the investigation roll out, let the investigation play out, and let it go where it goes. I'm not going to come out and make any comments that I think is right, wrong. Do I have an opinion? Yeah, my personal opinion, but I'm not going to share that with you. I'm going to tell you, let the investigation play out and see where it goes.
I appreciate that. That is the right thing to do as a government official.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. How about you don't come out and refer to someone that was just gunned down, an American citizen, as a domestic terrorist or an assassin? Like, what kind of unprofessional crap is that? So I appreciate that Homan is withholding commentary.
Yeah, two things about that. So Chrissy Noem said the other day, look, I was just following the orders of the president and Stephen. Let's note that Stephen Miller is in the same sentence as the president in terms of the head of Department of Homeland Security reporting into Stephen Miller.
Yeah.
That technically does not have a role that large, but is apparently running a giant portion of the White House. But okay, so that's her basically saying, well, they asked me to do it and I did it and now I'm in trouble? Yeah, duh, that's called working for Trump. Trump always asks you to go too far, and then if it doesn't work out and the American people react poorly, then he throws you under the bus. And that's what's happened here. That's why Homan's here and Noem is on the outs and Bovino's already gone, right? So now the second part of it is, I just want to take a moment here again to note that I think these are some of the most effective protests of my lifetime. So I want to thank the American people, especially, let's keep it real, pretty much exclusively the left and independents. I didn't see too many right-wingers out there, but if you were out there, then bless your heart for actually believing in the Constitution and believing in not treading on you. But I didn't see a lot of that. So guys, you did it, and you pushed back. But not only did you push back in big numbers in an effective way, but you did the most important thing. It takes courage to take a punch, not to throw a punch. Okay, so nobody threw bricks through windows. There was no fires. There was not, the mass criminality sometimes that follows a protest. The protesters don't ask for that criminality, but in this case, they were able to make sure somehow that it didn't happen at all, because any kind of criminality like that ruins a protest because it allows the government to justify a much bigger crackdown. And that didn't happen here. The protesters were incredibly courageous and they took the punch. And just like the civil rights movement taking a punch, it worked because it galvanized the rest of the country to go, we don't want it. We don't want you punching fellow American citizens like that, or in this case, shooting them and gunning them down in the streets. So I think those protesters are incredibly brave, not just in Minnesota, but throughout the country. And they made a big difference. And I'll give one more credit to America, because when protesters show up in places like Iran, they get gunned down. But when protesters showed up here, yes, a couple were gunned down. Obviously, that's what's leading to all of this. But then the government, even the Trump administration, was like, yeah, we can't do that, okay? So when you do it right and you do it in scale like this, beautiful. Thank you, America, for standing up for all of our constitutional rights. And so as you see it being rolled back here, and even Tom Homan saying we're rolling it back, I think you did it, and I'm proud of you. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.